one of the things that I actually did hear reported by a former colleague of mine, Alex Salvi. We both were at OAN together. He's now at Newsmax, and he's been stationed there in Rome for quite some time. He reported that one of the reasons that Cardinal Parolin, who had been widely expected to be the front runner of in terms of this conclave, that he was passed over specifically because of his connection to the Vatican secret deal with the Chinese Communist Party. And that specifically, it was the Asian cardinals sort of banded together. Cardinal Zen, of course, flew from Hong Kong to the conclave to make this case that deal and any connection to it need to be shot down. Have you heard this as well? Have you heard this reporting, and what is your sense of it?
Heard the same thing, that he, one of the primary reasons he was taken out as a front runner, besides the health scare that he had early on in the preparatory meetings, whether that was true or not, that also shook the Cardinals up, along with, like you said, the secret China Vatican Accord, called secret because we literally don't know the contents of what actually has transpired in that deal, where we know one thing is that the Vatican has allowed, for the first time really in her history, a foreign entity to basically name the bishops of our Catholic Church, right? So that's never been done before. So why was that done for Chinese Communist Party when they openly persecute Catholics and Christians and Uyghur people, etc.? That's a mystery. So Parolin has his hands stained with that. And that's one of the first things that we're praying that Pope Leo rescinds right away.
And I love the way you put that, though, because that is exactly what it's like. It's this idea that it specifically, like the Uyghurs, that we understand that these are people that are being completely mistreated by their government. They're people who have been completely overlooked by the West because we have this deal with China. Say, oh, they're going to make all of our iPhones and they're going to make all of our superconductors and all these different things. But at the end of the day, we know who they are and we know who this benefits. And what does it turn into in the United States? It also benefits the production and promotion of cultural Marxism. And I've always said that beyond the actual Chinese Communist Party, the biggest and greatest threat to Western society is cultural Marxism. And guess what? I want my Pope to be a force against that completely. And I don't want this idea of, oh, well, we need to be open to all. No, absolutely not. Stand on tradition. John, isn't that what's bringing people back to the church to begin with in this country?
It is. I mean, secular networks have picked up on this rise of Catholicism in the United States. They've oftentimes phrased it. I think the Guardian had an article, Spectator in the last 2 weeks, New York Post. They call them MAGA Catholics. And I think that's also, in some ways, their attempt at trying to understand this phenomenon where you have a religious demographic in this country, particularly young men who have just looked around at the world around them and seen everything is changing. Charlie Kirk had a great point on this. He was in a group text with a bunch of Protestant pastors, and he just said, like, guys, young men are flocking to the Catholic Church. And he made that observation that it's because these young men are looking at the institution of the Catholic Church and realizing that when the amount of genders is up for discussion, things like that, something so basic, that you want to look to a solid institution that has not changed its core teachings. And they're finding that, thanks be to God, as a Catholic I say this, in the Catholic Church. So that's a good thing. I mean, one point, Charlie or Jack, I want to ask you about too is, did you see the report that Chinese Cardinal just came out, I think, in the last couple of days and said that Pope Leo has actually made several trips to China? Now, could be insignificant.
I did see the reporting on Steve Bannon, and it came out through Liz Ure. I haven't talked to them outside of that, even though obviously I do know those people. And if it's true that he's made trips to China, I've made trips to China as well. I
exactly.
think that this is something that I would love to hear. I would absolutely love to hear him talk about publicly and talk about the issues of being Catholic in China